And there we go. All right, just to start the recording off for those listening, this is Tuesday, March 18. Hard for me to believe it is already that point in the year. And this is our first Historical Society board meeting of 2025. I wrote 2024 on a check the other day again, so I'm still learning to shift gears. I don't know about you all. It just doesn't seem like a right number. Um, so welcome and thank you for joining. I hope your holidays and everything else has been good because I realize some of you I haven't connected with for a while and a lot is happening probably for all of you since the last time we connected. But I proposed an agenda. I don't think I saw any other responses, but let me pull that agenda up and let's see if there's anything anyone does feel would be good for us to add tonight. Let me share my screen. If someone would let me know if you are seeing the board of directors screens slide there.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to adjust my view here. I've got too many windows open and it's confusing. Okay. There we go. Let me scroll to the agenda slide. So here are the things I had sent to you in an email and about going over. I think the first two are pretty timely and important for us to talk about. And then we can see how much of the rest we get to. I've got some updates regarding following up on the museum maintenance list that we said we would do last fall and some other general updates that are just FYI kinds of things, I think, and a couple other things that I'm proposing we think about as we go forward. We don't need to do anything right now, but some ideas. So if we think of something else, let's bring it up. Please don't hesitate to come in and share anything that we should mention. So I'm going to scroll to this first page. These on the left are the dates I had put in that email that I was proposing. I was following the same formula as we did last year, which was the fourth Saturday of the month for the programs at the same time, and also going to the annual meeting idea again. So let's just take that chunk right there, and let me ask you all, what do you think about the dates? Do you like continuing in that format, or is there something you'd like to see shift as far as the timing, etc.? Any thoughts?
They all look good to me. I think that's a good plan.
Okay.
I don't ever think we should change them because the people who come in from out of town are depending on those dates. They've been set for so long
Sure.
that they always come the fourth Saturday.
Okay. All right. And let me just go to that last one. Last year, I really loved having the annual meeting, idea, and I think there's a lot of things we could play with in that, as well as having general information of a meeting kind of format too. But how do you all feel that went? What we did on the Propel's porch?
It was great. I thought it was great. Great idea.
I thought it was really good having the meeting in one of the cottages.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And looping in the rest of the community. I think that was great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Good. Okay. Yeah. So as we get going over the next month or so, we got to start thinking about, is there something we want to highlight other than just kind of what's happening, with Treasury and all those kinds of things that we would generally include. We had the starter of this year. We had both Bill Howell and a couple other folks interject on some more remembering Clopper. And something, hopefully nothing like that happens this year, but something that's really timely might be nice to make the start of that meeting as well if we have things that are particularly important. And so be thinking about that. And if there's a different format to the meeting you'd like to do, I'm totally open. I think but I agree that if we can be at one of the locations like that, maybe it's Propels again, maybe it's somewhere else. It's really super. Okay, so let's move down to barn dance dates, and John has already really helped us out by, I assume it was you, John. I can't remember now. Getting some dates on the calendar with the Big Red Barn. And so I've reiterated those here, and which to me makes sense, but let me just open it up and ask about those dates as far as timing, and then we can talk about the content of these things.
Yeah, I'll just mention you're correct, Andrew. I just kind of grabbed some dates and put them on the calendar just so we'd have something. But, whatever people want to do is fine. as long as the barn is still available.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Which I
haven't
can,
looked, and those are definitely there. I saw them just the other day, John. I think they're still good out there on the calendar for.
yeah, just so people know, you can go to bershababarn.com and there's uh, in the navigation bar, there's something that says dates, and you can see what's scheduled. And it's generally quite correct.
John, how did it go? We were in New Zealand last fall, but how did the September date go? Was the weather good? That was one thing I remember we discussed. Will it be too hot? Is it going to be nice maybe because it's not so cool? How was that?
Um,
I
I
think it was
can't.
nice.
Yeah,
Was it Gene?
Good. So maybe this date is a sweet spot then, this late September date.
probably so. I'm having trouble remembering right this minute.
Yeah, I
Gene,
had
you
missed that
remember?
one.
Anybody else remember?
Yeah.
It was very
It
nice.
was very nice. I have a picture of wearing a sweater in the barn dance. We had our
Good.
grandchildren there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, that
yeah,
sounds good. I'm glad to hear that because, like I said, we discussed it quite a bit last year about whether this was
Mhm.
the right time of the,
Yeah.
time of the fall to do it. So it's good to hear that that worked.
Of course,
yeah.
you never know.
It's
You never know.
Right.
it's kind of worth noting we've got 3 weddings in October, and actually they're all after the fall barn dance. So I mean, I think October you're on a little bit of a risk of it being kind of cold. I think late September is really nice.
Mhm.
I agree.
Well, why don't we go ahead and let me just somebody help me with my Robert's Rules of Order, but I'd like to propose we accept and confirm these dates at this time for both the programs and the barn dance. Do I hear a approval?
So moved.
So moved. Thank you.
I'll second that motion that the
Okay.
dates be approved.
All right. Thank you very much. On the right-hand side, I've got a list that I also sent in that email of things that I've been collecting for a bit. Some of these, I can't remember where, if I originated some came from other people, et cetera, of program ideas.
Andrew, I'm
Yes.
so sorry to interrupt, but after
right.
after we second the motion, we should have a quick vote.
We should. Okay. So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Hi.
Aye.
Thank you. I need help with this part, so thank you, John.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Then any opposed?
All opposed.
Any opposed? Okay.
Motion carries.
The motion carries. All right. That's her. That's right.
Oh my. All right. Somebody else is gonna have to run this part. So on the right hand side, some ideas. It's not everything. And you might have seen the last email I put out saying, do any of you have ideas? I did have one response, and I'm gonna pull up the email because I don't remember exactly how he put it. Here we go. Jed Thomas sent a note. He said, how about a healthy vegan potluck was one idea he had. How about a gospel music jam with conventional hymns, everyone bringing their instruments, do it at a church maybe, use the church's hymnals, etc. So 2 ideas from, I think most of you probably know who Jed is. He's got a home over there on Grassy Ridge near the Blackwells and
Who is
that
that?
area.
Jed Thomas.
So healthy vegan potluck. I'll throw these into our list on the page here just so we can see it at the same time. Those are he was the only one I heard from as far as ideas so far. But were there others any of you had in mind? I'm going to blow this up so you can see it. But
I just thought of this, but Chris had mentioned before about the barn being a great venue for music. If we, if there are groups or musicians around that play, local music or music that's of the Appalachians in the area. It'd be cool to have, some music nights at the barn, as it's available. I know that's, it's rented out sometimes, but I think that would be neat.
yeah, I remember Stephanie. I don't know if it was you that I was talking with that about that idea too, and somebody else brought it up that if we want to get into other event kinds of things, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Got it. Other things anyone been thinking about or has popped up from others provided to you? Program topics or other things?
This is one that I'm not sure that we'd want to do. I'm not sure if it brings the kind of attention that we'd want, but um, a, um, a community-wide yard sale or garage sale or something like that. I know some other communities do that. I don't know if that's, the kind of attention we want to do, but just an idea.
I think somebody correct me if I'm wrong, they started to do one I think it got canceled at the community center last year. Seems like
Oh.
the ladies that are on that advisory board had planned on one. I don't know if it got rained out or they didn't get much response. Something happened.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
they were going to have spots at the community center. You paid, I think it was $10 for your spot, and then you bring whatever you want to sell. And I used to do this with a performance ensemble I had that we would raise money that way because we'd put 13 of our families together and you have a huge, right, sale of stuff.
Yeah. That'd
As
be
far as
awesome.
raising money, it was great, but it
Right.
kind of brings people together too.
Yeah.
And that's something that could be done in partnership with like the community center or something too, if we were interested in going that direction.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else from anybody as far as the moment? I know things come up as we hear them. So as far as this list, is anything, Stephanie shared a couple things. Does anything pop out for any of you that you would have a personal interest in, or you would prefer not see us go towards? Either one?
The storytelling idea is very interesting. I don't know if there are folks who would be willing or interested in telling stories of times past or family stories or anything of that we might not know that adds to the richness of the historical perspective would be fun.
Yeah, this is something I've been thinking about for a little bit now. I think I told you, well, I joined the Texas Association of Museums and also the American Society for something with an L, history. And that's one of the things they've done a lot of both work and working with groups on, as well as trying to help people think about, because as you can appreciate, we don't know about a lot of things until they get passed on orally from some of our community. And it's a shame if we don't capture that when there's an opportunity. And Sanford, I think of you because I know you have a personal history that I've heard you share that's really helpful for people to understand what life was like, at least back to the point that you personally were living in Beersheba and experienced some of the families, et cetera. And I'm with you, Teresa. I think it's an important thing. I don't know that I would know where to start, except I do have some resources as far as in general, but the who, and again, Stanford, John, Gene, some of you who have more history with Beersheba, might know some of the who people we might want to bring in. And I know we've got some online recordings that I've seen on the Grundy County site. Who's the gentleman that's telling stories on there? There's videos. I'll remember later. Some things like that. Any thoughts about that topic for anybody else? Oral history, storytelling.
I think the talking about Beersheba and the area, including Altamont and during the Civil War years, would be a really interesting meeting. I don't know if you've read the book, and I should have. I've got it here somewhere, but the author that did his master's thesis on that has the basis of that for a book that he has available every year I'm not sure if he was last year, but I bought a couple of his books at the annual Arts and Crafts Fair. And I was really impressed. I had heard some stories and all, but he really documents it really well. I talked to him for quite a while. He lives down in Pelham. Some of you might know him. He is married to Hootie and Mary Knight's daughter. So
Melody.
Melody, exact right, Melody. Yeah. So I think yeah, contacting him and see if he would be interested in doing a program because I learned a lot by reading that book.
Is he the one that did the book it's about Grundy more than
Yeah.
just like our area, right?
Yeah, it concentrates on Grundy. Yeah.
Okay.
He wrote it about the Civil War. It's fiction, but he wrote it based on facts.
Okay.
Well, there's two. There's one that actually is a documentary kind of thing, and then there's also a book that is fiction that based on fact. Yeah.
He was a history teacher, I think.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That would be interesting.
Anybody recall his name, Sanford?
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
I'm trying to think of it.
I'm gonna go. I've got his book. Give me just a minute, and I'm gonna see if I can find it.
Okay. I've seen him every year, and I approached his table twice, and I couldn't talk to him because
Mike something.
Is it okay?
Is it Mike Green?
No, not Green.
Okay.
No, it's not him. I have the book, but I haven't read it.
I was reminded of it.
His wife is local, and he's sort of within the area where he was from. He may have been Manchester, Tullahoma, or something.
Pelham.
Yeah, he grew up in Pelham.
Pelham.
Yeah. So yeah, here's the book. I don't know how to get back on how y'all can see it.
What's the title, Sanford?
His name is Michael Oliver.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's
Michael
called
Oliver.
The Civil War in Grundy County and Southern Middle Tennessee.
Huh.
Right.
But there's so much action that happened in Grundy. And of course, I just am reading the first copy of the Beersheba history that was done with Margaret Coppinger and Gower and Georgina Overby, and then also the French diaries, Miss French who was there, and I just have been doing that the last few days because I'm going to do a walking tour around the old hotel all the way around, and then talk for trails and trilliums. I'm going to do a couple of those, and I'm going to incorporate local history as well as history of the beginnings of thinking about saving Savage Gulf and the parks and all that stuff.
Okay.
So, really interesting. Both Union troops and Confederate troops just passing through Beersheba, camping there, and some really cool stories in that.
This came up.
This sounds fascinating. I think we ought to try to get him to speak, and surely it's doable if he's coming up for the Arts and Crafts Fair. Anyway, I love the idea of this topic.
Yeah.
Does he still
just
live
lives in
Pelham?
Pelham, so
Yeah,
he's
that's
in the
not
county.
Okay. The page I'm showing here is one I've been reading a bunch of articles, and I'm sure you all, or at least some of you, are familiar with this. That because I've been reading two books, and one referred to this journal. What's the full name? JSTOR. It's Tennessee History, but and it referred back to some articles, some about the Civil War time, and I'm scrolling down now to this one, Civil War in Tennessee, some things about Miss Murphy, etc. And there was some about Armfield, etc. in here. And so it just seems like a topic that keeps popping up for me too, is the only thing I'm trying to say. And so I would agree that, and we've had people ask about this. I know I've had people ask me, and the only thing I automatically can go back to is that reference in the French book, right, about the 1963 invasion where they set the hotel on fire or tried to set it on fire, etc. But I think there's an interest in that. Okay, good idea.
So should we then, is everybody up for inviting him to see if he would do a program?
Absolutely.
Should we do that in the form of a motion and do all that, or
sure? Shall we? And so the motion is we invite Mr. Oliver to present a program on the topic related to the Civil War and what he has information on. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I forgot to do the first step, didn't I? I'm sorry.
So
Well, that's the
moved.
motion. Would someone
Second.
second the motion? Okay, sorry.
Andrew, you may be like me. I'm used to going on consensus
Yeah, well, to a
rather
point,
than the
yeah.
Robert's Rules of Order.
Oh, I think we're there, unless anyone disagrees. So, would you be willing to reach out, Sanford, since you've got a little
Yeah.
bit of connection there?
Yeah. I'll contact him and see about that. So would we like to do that like the first date? Just go down the list, or do you have a particular time? Well, I'd have to see if he'd be available, I guess.
Yeah, I was
But
gonna
see
say,
if he can do the May the 24th, and if he can't, which one could he do?
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
And
Memorial
if
Day
he's-
weekend,
And Sanford, if it turns out that he's pretty open to any of the dates, you might say, well, let me kind of pencil you in. Let me see if some of our other speakers have limited dates, and then you can maybe move them around. You might
Okay.
just set that expectation.
All right.
and
Yeah.
since he's local, there's less chance he might have a restriction from availability that some others might.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I did last year. It was like, well, who has the most restrictions on their availability? Yeah, good point. I'd like to advocate for one of these first two, and the reason, so this one keeps nudging me. We are very fortunate to have history with persons who have been very capable writers, artists, various creative, I think creatively skilled and capable people in our history and present. And so I put some examples here of both artists and literary figures, and I know there's more. You all know better than I. So I wanted to see if there's anyone else that would love to see something like that. I think it's an opportunity for us to highlight some things not everyone in our community maybe has appreciated, but I could be wrong about that. But also some of even just our folks that are connected to know. I mean, Sanford, you should be added to this list too. I mean, you're quite a capable artist in your own right, and there's probably others I haven't thought about. So let me ask if either of those topics, the idea of either having any of those folks be a part of our program or be a part of our talking about that history and present day in Beersheba or not, is that attractive to anyone as a topic?
Yes.
Absolutely.
It definitely is to me. I think that'd be great. Yeah.
Mhm.
Would like visual artists and writers too together, or like literary figures?
I personally think it could be either way. My thought is there's probably enough material to separate it, just because
Mhm.
we know there's a fair amount of persons as well as their own prolificness, is that a word, as artists or writers. And because again, I'm sure this list is bigger than I know. I'm just through some of the names that I was thinking of as a thought to the process. And as far as inclusion of anyone still among us, that's a possibility. Or maybe it's something that we overview and say, did you know this about Joe and the sculpture work he does or has
Mhm.
done, or about what Sanford, the kind of work you do. I think it'd be wonderful to highlight that and give those people that are still with us the opportunity to even show.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well,
cool.
starting with your list, Monty Wanamaker lived, he did not live here, but he is
Right.
now deceased.
Oh, yes. No, I realize.
And,
Yeah. Go ahead, Gene.
and of course, Phil's gone now too.
Yes.
I've
Yeah.
probably known Phil the longest. He was in second grade, and my mother was his Sunday school teacher in
Oh, is that
Nashville.
right? Yeah, there's, it's pretty rich. I mean, and the variety too. It's not like everybody's a painter or a sculptor, and
Right.
Phil's work is very unique to what. And I put Monty just because, as Sharon, of course, is very familiar with it, and others is we have those drawings that Monty did that we have on cards and things.
Yeah, you made me think, Andrew, it would be interesting to hear or to know how Beersheba informed or inspired each of these artists. I mean, through
Yeah,
past and present, just
yeah,
as I look through the list and think about what I've seen of their art, and very different, but how the physical environment and the historical environment may have impacted how
yeah.
they viewed their art. Yeah.
I know Sanford shared with me about how he started to do what he does, and it's as simple as the beauty of the leaves and what they
Yeah.
do when they touch other materials or various things, and it's interesting and it's beautiful. So no, I totally agree.
Probably our most well-known artist was Charles Cagle. He grew up in the house that was
Yep.
that is it Thompson. What's Thompson's name? Jed's house. No, no.
Oh, the old
Across from the post office,
yeah,
across from Hugh Gerald.
right.
He showed his work in New York, in Nashville, and one day I just happened to be looking at an article, and the Tennessee State Museum had all of his artwork on display for the month of August back in 2014.
Ah,
So he's probably our most famous artist of all.
okay,
He showed in the New York Museum of Art.
fantastic.
Well, Red Grooms would be up there
Thomas
too
Cagle.
in that list too.
Brother was Sterling.
Yeah,
I
the
would
most
say Red
famous.
is the one that I knew before
Yeah,
coming to Beersheba, just because of some
you're
other
right. And then Nashville, and then New York, and Beersheba. Yeah.
There's Charles.
Yeah.
Yes, Monty actually did live in Beersheba for quite a few years in the log house that is on the left before you get over to Leonard Tate's house. That one that Ms. Davenport built, the two-story house.
Yeah.
He lived there off and on for quite a few years.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah. And he was my first cousin. So I have quite a few pieces of several pieces of his work, and I could even probably borrow some of his art from the gallery place that he had when he died in McMinnville.
Oh, wow.
And
That would be
still,
nice.
and it's still there. And then, of course, Joe also is one of my best buddies, and I'm going to see him in a couple of weeks. And I'm wondering if, and then, of course, having some actual pieces of some art pieces that we could show somewhere. I'm just wondering if Stacy Beam would be willing to open his place to actually have an exhibition there, and we can have a meeting there.
I think it'd be fantastic. I think he'd be very open, and I know Amanda typically is as well to that kind of thing for the property, and that would be so cool. This gets me kind of excited.
Yeah.
Almost like
I think it could be very cool. Yeah. Well, again, Sanford, you're our program guy this time. You've got the connection. Let me just go ahead and ask, because unless we want to delve into some of these others, what would you all think? Could I make a motion that we go ahead with Beersheba artists and where is it?
Civil War. Yeah,
We got that one.
there.
Oh, storytelling.
Well,
What do y'all think about those three as a combination
So
for this season?
mhm.
Great.
you made a motion?
So my motion is for the three programs to be about the Civil War years, art and history of storytelling, Beersheba artists.
So
Second.
move. Yeah.
Any second?
I'll second it.
Okay. And all in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Now let me interrupt a minute.
Aye.
I just
Okay,
got a
Jane.
text from Susan.
Uh-huh.
She can't talk to us, but she can hear all
Oh,
of
good.
us.
Okay. Okay.
So, Susan, if you have any comment, text me and I'll tell them.
Yeah, or use the chat, Susan. If you can get to the chat screen, then you can put it there and it'll pop up for us as well, if that works for you. Either one. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, Jane. That's good to know. That happens sometimes. Let me, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight these just so we keep them in mind. And as far as the who on this list, this was just me brainstorming. There may be others, or we want to narrow it. I'm happy. So, whatever makes sense, we can go there as we get to narrowing the stuff down. On this first one, Sanford, you definitely have some connections beyond what I or probably the rest of this group have. I'd be happy to talk to Stacy and Amanda and the Baggetts about the possibility of the space, if y'all need to do that.
If you do that, that'd be great, and see if there would be a particular one of those dates that we have.
Yeah.
And we can have sort of a reception opening kind of thing, and people could talk about the ones that are still around. But I know that. Wow, yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
And who is Tom Beers? I don't know who that is.
Tom and Margaret had the house at the end of Bear back. And they rent it a great deal of the year. So they're not in a ton, but they live in Nashville otherwise. So Tom is a painter. I have one of his pieces in my home, abstract mostly, what I've seen. And it's fairly prolific. He's done a few open houses, but it's been a while. His health has not been the best over the last year or so. So I need to check in with them anyhow. So if he would be a
There's
painter.
two more on there that you've left out.
Who's
One
that?
is Mike Walker, and the other one's John Tate.
John Tate and Mike Walker, is that right?
Mike's still here. He lives over on Stone Door Road, and he's an artist. He's got a lot of artwork.
Okay.
And then John is gone, but he's the big painting down at the hotel in the lobby is John Tate's.
John Tate.
Oh,
Yep.
That's Leonard's brother.
Yes.
Yes.
I figure there's a connection of some kind. And Mike lives on Stone Door?
Yeah, Mike lives on Stone Door.
Okay.
and actually, Leonard was an artist in his own right, as that goes into your literary more. But
Okay. I did not know.
what I meant as a creative.
Oh,
person.
yes. Yeah, that's why at first when I was playing with this, I thought, well, maybe
Oh, you've got it. I see you haven't listed. I didn't see.
down here. And that if we go to this topic at some point, I'm sure there's plenty more. You all have knowledge of others, I'm sure, that I'm not thinking of.
Yeah, right. I didn't see that.
No
As far
worries.
as artists go, I cannot remember her name, but she sells leaf art at the hotel.
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Nancy Gay.
Nancy
Yeah.
Gay.
Oh, yeah. We got to add her.
Yes.
Yeah.
She does beautiful watercolors as well.
What's her last name? She's out of Woodley.
Yes. Nancy Gay Woodley. Uh-huh.
She's very musically inclined, and she also.
Thank you. Yes, I have a bunch of her stuff.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Kim.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart. Okay.
And then Kim Boyd is an artist who lives here.
Kim Boyd?
Kim Boyd.
Yeah, she's married to Falls, Kim Falls. She's married to Falls.
What is her medium?
Actually, her last name is Fultz.
Okay.
Is she a painter, or what does she work?
She's a painter.
Mhm.
Cool.
She was over at the craft fair this year.
Oh,
She
yeah?
was good.
Okay.
Real
Well,
good.
one possibility, if we find it's overwhelming, we could talk and
I have too
talk
many.
about past in one session and do another on present, and go into different things or different mediums. Painters of Beersheba and sculptors of Beersheba and whatever. Very cool. Thank you. I love this. I love these topics. I hope you all are excited. I am.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I'll do a little bit on the storytelling piece, but I'd love for someone else some of you that have more background in history to think about people that might be either good to tap or to talk about. I've got things just in general about the importance of it, but the specifics of Beersheba, you all probably have much more of a hand on that. So be thinking about that. I'll put a framework together and send it to you and see if we can plug in what we might want it to look like. And then if there's actual any storytelling, we can decide, how we would plug that into it as well.
I know he wrote. Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's a poet. Yeah.
I kind of thought the vegan potluck might not go over real well, and so
no, if you have a potluck, bring everything, and whoever's a vegan can have.
There you go. Well, we could do that with the program, Exactly. Okay, super. All right, great. Any other thoughts on programs at this time that we ought to keep in mind? As far as the logistics of it, any other thoughts about that? How it went last year? Things we want to do same or different?
That local Native American history intrigues me. Mm-hmm. And I've been trying to think if I knew of anyone who has really delved into that.
Yeah.
And I think they may be in the past, and we might find them off of TSLA's website. But then it seems to me like Ralph Thompson did some stuff on that. I don't know if you all know who Ralph is or not.
Yeah.
Ralph is deceased now. His cousin Bobby is Bobby Thompson, that we probably all know.
Yeah.
But I was thinking Ralph did some stuff on the trace, but I don't remember how much history he did. I can check with his son and see if he's got anything in the computer, because he was going to have access to all of his daddy's materials.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say any, these topics we want to explore, even if we don't get to them as one of our regular programs this year. One of the thoughts I had was, if sometime we want to just offer an online gathering where somebody talks. Let's say we can't get somebody locally, but they're the expert on the Chickamauga Trace or whatever it is. We could also always offer an online opportunity for folks that aren't local anyhow, and get that expert or whoever talking about the thing we're interested in exploring. So we can always consider that too. I'll just mention a couple that I had thrown in here. The historical markers, I know it's fairly obvious what they say. I was looking at markers in another area where I was in Wales a couple weeks ago for a week, and I'm doing some genealogy background in my family. My father's side is Welsh, and then in addition, just traveling the country, and there were some interesting things they did with markers there to kind of engage you when you went to look at it, et cetera. But my thought was to maybe we dive in depth about the topics of the two that we have. So that's all that was. The cemetery walking tour, I know that sounds weird, but it's one of the things that the Museum Association talks about doing, because I know, Gene, you especially with your genealogy work, et cetera, appreciate the fact that you discover things talking about people as you see them in the connections you experience walking through a cemetery in a way that is a little bit differently engaging. And it's just interesting as well. I love walking cemeteries because you see these names. I had to walk a few in Wales to find some of my folks. And it was really interesting because I came across other names that I've encountered in connections through that work. So that's why I put that one down. I don't know how many of our folks have taken the opportunity. I love especially the Hoonerwaddle because it's a variety, a little different. There's tons of your folks, Gene, I know probably at Grace, right? The Browns, et cetera. Big population, and Leonard Tate's grave is there, which people may not know. And so
that's in Grace Chapel.
Yeah, Grace, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the idea behind that one.
Susan has sent me a text regarding Chickamauga. And there is a lady in the county that talks about some of that subject, and we can't think of who she is, but we have a contact that will know how to reach her.
Okay. Perfect.
I don't know.
That's great to hear. Okay, well, if it's okay, no other questions or comments on programs and events. As far as the barn dances, I haven't had any thoughts about our shifting the gears. Now, as you know, I shifted the gears a little bit on having a bluegrass band back in July. It was a little different, and then we had a repeat of Kenny Barrett's band in September. I had mixed reviews of both, so which means some people liked and some people didn't like, which is okay. So if you have thoughts about the entertainment, the food, because the food shifted too. We had who did David work with? He did Collins in September, and Gene, Theresa, and anyone else that was there. I heard a little bit of feedback, but not much about the food. But if
That
you
was
want to
good.
tell one or another, was it okay?
I feel like it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
We were getting a little bit of mixed reviews on Praters, and that's why we thought we'd try something else.
Yeah, I think it was really, as I think back, I think it was everybody was saying it was better than previous.
Okay.
I
I
think.
didn't think their slaw was quite as good, but that's immaterial as far as the meat and so forth.
I'm thinking about the barbecue. I think it was good.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
barbecue.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, good. I think price-wise, we were still in the same neighborhood as we were before. So there wasn't a big change there.
Mhm.
We had to play with, it's always tricky on the numbers. In September, we know is going to be less always. It just is hard to know how much less as far as the numbers go. And weather can impact that a lot some years. So. Okay, well, I'm going to ask David if he wants to coordinate again. I know he's been trying to do a lot more independent freelance work. What I don't want is him, and he realized he doesn't want to commit to taking the whole thing, but he was happy to coordinate a bit for us last year. If anyone else would like to step in and do that, that'd be great, or at least help with that work. That would be good to know. Good chance I personally will be absent in September, just because of our schedule. But so just make sure we get our coverage. I'll be checking in with you all. Yeah.
I would like to help, and I don't necessarily want to be the coordinator, but
Yeah.
women are happy to help.
Okay.
Because we won't be here in July, so I'm already feeling guilty about that. So September,
I
we
feel guilty.
happy to help.
Everybody has their own lives, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'll reach out and start to see who's going to be around, and if we all do a little bit, it helps a lot. So
Mhm.
okay. Yes.
You have Mary Knowles Murphy listed there, and I thought that I would mention that for those that don't know, I think most of us know though, that she was part of the Murphys of Murfreesboro, but she would spend summers up here several times. And when she would be here, which would be at Lover's Leap, she would write stories. Well, I'm into old stories if they have a meaning to me. And more recently, I looked on the place where I get a lot of old books or manuscripts, and I have her book that is in the Tennessee Mountain. And
Huh?
of course, she wrote under the name of Charles
Craddock, wasn't it?
Craddock, Charles Edgar Craddock. And because women's books wouldn't sell, but men's would. And I have gotten it, and I've been letting it air because it is so musty and moldy smelling when I received it. And but it is published in 1893. This particular one is.
That's great, Jade. And
Yeah.
you remind me of something that I was going to mention too. I would love for us to, when we have a program and our library has, or we choose to add to our library, anything related to it, I'd love for us to give people a list of things, have them use our library and go learn more. So just a thought, if we go forward and we're talking about books, maybe we add it, make sure it's in our library and that kind of thing.
Well, that would be nice. And they used to be able to do things like that. Now they're under a uh, regional library program, and they can only put the books in that have been approved through that program.
I
And then they have to get rid of certain books as they get new ones in, and they are told exactly what to have and not have.
okay. All right. Thank you for
That's nice.
unfortunate. Yes,
It's
in my
unfortunate.
eyes. Okay. All right. Well, let's jump
Now we
forward.
could have them in our own museum.
Yes, we certainly can.
We
Yeah.
certainly could.
Preview copies, etc. Yeah. No, good point. So the next thing I had that I wanted to make sure we talked about, and we don't have to settle this, but I keep thinking every time I go to ask for a meeting, we're scrambling a little bit. So my thought was, could we schedule some ahead? And if we don't stick to it, then we can shift the plan. But my thought was, if we go ahead and get it on our calendars, then hopefully it helps us just to not worry about whether we're going to, cram one in or not. So I had a couple of proposals here, and tell me what y'all think. So just to explain what I've got here. I'm proposing scheduling ahead, maybe up to a year, depending on how we do it. One idea is go ahead and say, let's meet bi-monthly all year, and we keep up with just conversations about plans and how things are going. Or maybe we meet just doing what I'm calling our active season, which would be like now through September, when we finish the summer, we finish the barn dance, etc., and either do monthly or some cadence during that time. So that's my thought is, if we go ahead, at least get some things on the books, and then we can always change it. But that way it's just there in case it helps us know if we're going to need to look at different time frames for getting together. So let me just stop with that and ask your thoughts about that kind of idea, that approach. And I know not everybody, none of us know totally what our schedules are going to be. And I realize that, but that's the idea. Any thoughts?
I like the idea of the bi-monthly through the calendar year, just so we can stay on top of things throughout the year. And I feel like sometimes we're playing catch up,
Yes.
when we're meeting, during the active season. So
Yeah.
that's my vote.
I
Okay.
agree. I agree, Stephanie. It would be nice to have a more of an annual check-in. If you think it's productive to have, bi-monthly meetings during the quote unquote downtime, but things are going on. I mean, you're doing tons of stuff.
Well, no, not necessarily, but we can always be forecasting ahead,
That's
ideas for programs and things done, and getting some people to help with those,
Yeah.
for an expert takes time. You
Yeah,
got to work
it does.
ahead.
It does.
Good. Thank you. Anyone else thoughts about those ideas?
Not on that subject, but I have a question on the other subject. Did we come up with 2 or 3 meeting programs?
We had these 3 that you see highlighted here. So it was the Beersheba artists, storytelling, and Civil War years. Yeah.
I want to throw in a vote for the bi-monthly schedule. I think that would establish a good rhythm.
Okay.
I think that's good too.
So I'm hearing quite a bit for that. Let me just ask, is there
I move that we actually go to bi-monthly meetings.
okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Thank you very much. So my thought was, if we're doing now,
That's every other month.
we may need to talk before May, but ideally the next one would be May. So I'd like to keep a little flexible about that, just because we haven't been in a cadence so far. So let's look at how we are doing on our program planning, et cetera. As far as day and time, I think Larry's one of the trickiest as far as getting a weekday to work. But let me ask you all your preferences. I chose the options I sent you recently based on what seemed to have gotten the most favorability in the past. But tell me your preferences as far as, is a weekday best versus weekend? It seems like weekends got trickier for most people last time. So let me just hear your thoughts.
I'll
Well,
put,
go
I
ahead.
was going to throw in a vote for this time slot. Kind of a weeknight is nice for me.
Okay.
I think Tuesday's pretty good
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good.
because it avoids kind of spilling over on a holiday weekend, but it's Tuesdays are,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, seem kind of available.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
like
and Susan, if you can hear, I'd love to hear from you because I know this is an hour later for you. And so just to be clear about what it does for you. Sanford, I'm sorry, you were saying something.
no, I thought Tuesday this time was good.
Okay. Okay.
She said no problem.
Okay. And Jean, how about for you and Sharon?
That'll work.
It works?
Should be fine.
Okay.
I'm in agreement as well.
Stephanie, okay, cool. I was gonna call on you next. Well, why don't we go ahead and say this time, Tuesdays, 7, we can always shift. We can always go a bit earlier or whatever. Um, and because I know I confused Susan one time when I was forgetting she's at Eastern time and I wanted to make sure we were all clear about that. So I'm gonna put a note here.
Yeah, actually, Andrew, if you can always be real clear about the time zone, because
Mm-hmm.
it just gets tricky. The way these scheduling things work, they put them on your calendar, and if you're in a different time zone, I'm usually in the Eastern, but sometimes Central, but sometimes Mountain, and
And for Teresa, it might be Switzerland.
Yeah, yeah. I'll probably miss you in May and
I
July.
understand. Yeah. No,
Well,
that's
would it help? Would it help those in the Eastern time zone for us to do 6:30, or is that not a good time for everyone else?
Oh yeah, John, that's true. You're often in Atlanta.
I don't think it's a problem, really.
Okay. Okay.
Whatever
So,
time works the best for the majority,
okay.
Susan said 7 is fine. Of
Is it okay? Yeah, I
course,
know.
it's 8 her time.
Yeah,
Right.
I know. Okay, let's go with this. We'll adjust in future as we need be. It's not in stone, but let's go ahead that. I'll send out the list of dates and actually go ahead and schedule in Zoom. So if you like to use the Zoom calendar appointment, some of you did accept that, then you'll have it. And if not, you can ignore it. That's perfectly fine. Great. Thank you very much. That's super. So to catch you up where I have been on this list, a few things. So this is the list that we discussed back in October. The vote was for me to go ahead and start chipping away as possible. And so I want to give you updates on the things that have been going on. So if you've been in Beersheba since December, you know we had to remove the tree. Carlos came and looked again, and I had somebody else look as well, and it was dying at the ends, and apparently this is common for the green ash or emerald ash trees in the region. And to remove just the large branch, which was humongous, going over the top of the museum, which I know poor Sharon kept saying, is it going to fall today, kind of thing, that was not going to be advantageous over time. So I think we all communicated via email about this, but it was agreed that we should just go ahead and remove the tree. We were going to have to eventually. I hated that. I loved how the tree was right in front of the property. It just was beautiful in that spot. But so it was removed early December. So that work was done. The second thing, the alarm system, it took a while to get Matthew Meeks to come back to me. And then after he came out, it took a while. I had to bug him numerous times to give me his quote, but he did come out and look. And I think I have open his quote here that in his recommendation, let me bring that up. Can you all see this document? It's a little small.
Yes.
So his company, he's the one we've worked with before, and Sharon, you and others probably have had more, I think Susan too, interaction with Matthew Meeks in the past. But he came out, he said, the panel needs to be changed, it needs to be upgraded in general, just to work with the systems they have, et cetera. But the door sensors have to be corrected, et cetera. And we knew that. We know also the door is not shutting properly right now with those sensors to keep the contact it needs. And I think that's one of the reasons, if not others, that the alarm was going off when it didn't need to. So bottom line, he recommended that work. As you can see on the right-hand side, that would be $1,050. Monitoring, as you can see at the bottom, is a $35 a month if we choose to go with monitoring. I recommend we do. I think if nothing else, it would be good to ensure the system makes the emergency contact that we need should there be truly a fire detection or other, etc. So that is his quote. I'm happy if we want to get others to look at it for comparison. Thank you. But otherwise, happy to go and recommend this for us to think about. So let me ask first, any thoughts about what this involves, and if you feel differently about having a monitoring system and what it does, et cetera. Any conversation or discussion about that?
Well, I've used Matthew Meeks, and he seems to be kind of the leading provider in the area, as far as I can tell.
Okay.
So if we're going to do it, I mean, I think he's a good choice.
Okay. How do you all feel about monitoring as far as having an active service behind it versus just an alarm?
Andrew, I'm open to monitoring. I was sitting here wondering if the grant that we got, the grant money, will allow us to can it be utilized for these changes and or for monitoring?
Good question. And Sharon, let me know if you see this differently. It's from the letter that says how it's to be used. It's in general for the museum. It doesn't go into really any great detail, and this is for the museum. I would see it inclusive of using those funds if we're talking about where it comes from. Now, technically, what we've done, if you recall what Larry did with the accounts, is we've got two large investment accounts, and then there's roughly $13,000 in the checking account, knowing that our operating expenses remain well below that. So as far as the accounting, I would agree. I think it's appropriate to say from an accounting perspective that it's coming from that account, but it would be paid directly from the checking account is how it works.
Would that include the smoke detectors as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
He's only got one down. I personally think we could see about having those in multiple rooms, but right now he's only got one there.
Well, the reason I ask, I had ADT and I've also had SimpliSafe. And on both of them, my smoke alarms would go off and there would be no fire.
Okay.
And it's when something flies by it. It could be a gnat or it could be a fly.
Very sensitive, huh?
Very sensitive. And I would get called. I'd be in Florida or I'd be in Nashville and I'd get a phone call and there never would be a fire.
Okay, that's a good point.
And I would ask them why. When there was nothing going on, there was no smoke, no fire.
Yeah.
And that's what they told me. They said they're sensitive enough that if a fly goes by them or a gnat or a spider crawls across them,
I could see the motion. Yeah, I could see the motion sensor doing that. I'm surprised your smoke detector.
The smoke. Yeah, it was my smoke each time. It won my motion.
Interesting. Okay.
So we might want to double check that with him.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I'm happy to take back and make sure we're not going to run into regular issues with that kind of stuff.
I'd have that problem maybe twice a year.
Yeah.
Now, Andrew.
Sorry, go ahead.
Here's another big picture question, and I'm not trying to open up a can of worms at 8:00 at night, but did you all decide while we were in New Zealand or do some talking about are we sticking with this building and we're going to kind of repair, patch, renovate, or are we thinking that we're going to have to build something new? And I'm only asking that because I'm trying to decide how much you invest in the current building if we're not staying there. And I don't really know if you all had some conversations while we were gone. So I'd just be curious, kind of long-term view.
Exactly. We definitely did, Elizabeth. And the conversation we ended it with, we know for now this is where we are, and how long that looks in the future is a little bit up in the air. But we know now we need to take care of the building we have in order to protect and preserve what we have. So this maintenance list, let me go back to it, was a part of saying, for now, we need to at least do these things for where we are. So long term, there are other possible options that we did want to explore, but we said, as far as that longer term vision, we needed to first just take care of these near term maintenance items, which is why it was named this on the screen here. So these were the things we knew we needed to do now. But that's a good, I'm glad you said that, because the other thing I wanted to point out about this quote is it's assuming that our door setup, the door jamb, is going to be such that those sensors can operate correctly, right? And that it'll close correctly.
Yeah, if the wind blows them, they can cause those door sensors to go off.
And we know we don't have a good closure to the door right now. The door frame has some issues. The lock itself, we wanted to change as well. So my recommendation is, let's decide, do we want to go to this point of having the alarm system? But in my opinion, first, we need to get that door set up to where it's not going to be a problem for it to work correctly, because we know that was part of the problem as well.
The moisture makes it swell, and then the door don't want to shut.
Yeah, and it contracts and swells. That's true. I've gotten a text from Susan, and she says no to monitoring. She said even a spider can set off the monitoring.
Oh, okay.
You must have had experience with that to have said so.
Okay. So, but it would, and I need to get complete clarity from Matthew on this, but as I understood, we still have what we had, right? Which is the alarm goes off, but it's not going to automatically contact anyone if we don't have monitoring.
You can set up monitoring type that it alerts someone's phone.
Okay.
And it's not through a monitoring company.
Okay. Well, maybe
for example, if you were the one to get the notice on your phone that something happened, then if you're out of town, you could call Sharon or me to run over and make sure it's okay. Or if we need to call the fire department or something.
Okay. So I'm making notes for me to go back to him. Go ahead, John.
Well, it's also possible that Gene points out that in the past, the spiders might set it off, but perhaps with freshly installed sensors and the new panel and everything, it might perform quite well. So we could always start monitoring, and if it's a problem, either address it or just cancel the monitoring.
Well, mine were new systems when they happened.
Well, it might not be this system. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who did your install? Was it Matthew Meeks?
No, I didn't have crime prevention. I had ADT at first, and then I went to Simply Safe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've got a good list of questions.
And then I had a different one in Nashville when I was there. Different company.
Okay.
And Ben Lomond also does the same thing.
Yeah. One thing about Simply Safe, actually, Gene, I use that in my house in Atlanta, and you can add the camera to it, and
you can.
It's kind of nice to be able to see what the heck's going on.
Right. And my grandson uses Ring all over his house for his doors and everything, and then he monitors it because it comes to his phone.
You all know the product Wise? We have Wise cameras around our property, and on the app we can see at any time, and it detects motion and records motion videos as well. So it's another option.
Yeah. What Susan is saying, that the spider problem is with the motion sensors.
Yeah. And
it's such a small place, it would be gone fast. That is a Ring camera. You need the internet.
Yes.
No. I don't know if you need the internet or not. And the reason I say that, my son can see it on his phone, and he can be 1,000 miles away.
Well, the cameras themselves, though, rely on a connectivity
to his phone.
Yeah. well, and for their own setup. It depends on the company, I guess, but for all the ones I know about, that's the case. If our internet goes down at the cabin, then our cameras are down. Yeah, connectivity goes. So, but there's different systems as well. Well, let me go back to Matthew with some of these questions about the motion sensors, smoke sensors, and what we need to make sure the door functioning level needs to be. On that topic, I have not talked to anyone yet about these items here that have to do with the actual building, renovation pieces we talked about. So if you don't mind, let me come back to that one. I'm going to jump to the termite and other pest treatment. I had Cheryl come out, as you all know, last December, and then I spoke to them recently about if we were interested in any kind of program, what that might be. There was no evidence of termite activity, and so there was nothing to deal with at the moment. They said if we wanted to have something set up, and this is what I have at my place, is you could put they're called Centricon. They're things you stick in the ground, and they take care of keeping termites from the facility, the building. And you can do just that, or you could do that plus pest control. Now we have a lot of spider activity in that building. Sharon, you might remember I spent one day just cleaning spiders off the back of all the things hanging on the wall. It gets bad very quickly, which I'm sure all of us experience sometimes at our places in Beersheba. So there's different options. I don't necessarily feel like we need to jump on this moment, but just to let you know, I know it's kind of scribbles on your screen, but the termite only, I believe was, I don't have it on this page. I'll have to look it up, but it was very, very reasonable as far as costs go if we wanted to do that. And you can see on this screen the complete combination of pest control plus termite is $55 a month. Now that gets to about 600 some a year. So if we want to think about that, that's an option, or just doing pest control without the termite, which on that second level you can see there is 29 a month. So I don't know that we need to go any decision making, and we're actually at the end of our agreed upon time anyhow, but I wanted to let you know that they gave us the information. I'm going to pass this on to you with a little more clarity than what you can read here. And I recommend we discuss it and think about whether we want to do that kind of treatment going forward. So at least we have the information. Back to this list. Again, I've been researching door locks, but not the work on the door. And actually, I'd like you all to help with thinking who might we want to talk to about getting bids and recommendations for this work that involves more than just the things I've talked about. So like the exterior wallboard or shingles, the doors that we have deterioration, both the side door and the front door. We've worked with a few people, but I don't know that I've done the length of work that a lot of you all have with your homes in Beersheba, and you might know better folks that not only do good work, but also we talked about our concern for matching as much as possible, right? Keeping the shingles not looking like we just threw some modern something against the wall. So I'm going to put this in a note to you, but if you'll think about anyone you might know that we would feel comfortable with giving us a bid and actually has the capability to do the kind of work, then I'm more than happy to continue following through, but I just don't think the right contacts at the moment. Does that make sense? Okay. And
Yes.
Gene, I know you've done a lot of work on your place, and John, you've probably worked with folks for the properties your dad has, et cetera, and whoever else. So,
Are you waiting for Toby to get with you to look at the place?
yeah,
or have you already talked? Is he
No, I
already
haven't.
been over?
I left him a message. I have not heard back
Oh,
from him. There was another gentleman as
you
well.
didn't hear this from me, but he will be over here tomorrow.
Oh, he will? Okay.
He's supposed to be in Beersheba tomorrow.
Okay, well, if you happen to talk with him, maybe ask if he'd be willing to take a look at our box. That's
Well,
maybe
I don't have a key to let him in, but
okay. Well,
and
Sharon,
plus I'll
Sharon.
be at the archives tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe see if we can connect him with Sharon if you're around.
If Toby could run by the museum tomorrow.
Well, I'll probably be around.
Okay. I have not heard back from him, but I don't know him. I just know he's done work for various
He's
folks.
a really nice person, and his wife is the basketball coach for Grundy and a teacher.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Does Little League baseball too.
Okay. Well, I received a really like David and Sylvia Adams had glowing recommendations for all the work he did at their place, and I don't know who else he might have
He
helped in.
does the courthouse work too.
Does he? Okay. Well, he's got to be decent.
And, and what is
Toby-
his what
Toby
is his
Woodley.
area of work?
So I was going to ask him to look at our
Electrician.
panel.
Oh,
Yeah, we don't have the capability to just add like plugging in an air
Got
conditioning fan or something like that. It's going to have too much draw. And
We don't have enough voltage on the meter.
So we want somebody to look
on
and
the
look at our
panel box.
condition, but also look at what else we need to do if we want to support some other equipment. And yeah,
Not for nothing.
He just barely runs the 2 lights,
yeah,
3 lights.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so that's where we are on things. I'm going to send a note as follow up on the 2 items to have you all think about, and then we'll see if we get to hear from Toby as far as this side, this other. The window screens would be great to do at some point. That's probably not a hard one. Sharon and I talked about this to be able to ventilate when she's got the building open, et cetera.
Yeah, we've talked about that. That's
Yeah.
not a hard one.
No, because you can just pick up the screen wire at greeters.
Yeah, we can make those. Not worried about that so much as getting someone that's really skilled with the door work and the exterior pieces that we need to clean up. Yeah. So because we're at time, I'm just gonna quickly mention these 3 things. Trails and Trilliums is the first weekend in April. It's earlier than previously. They did not get with me, but Sanford, I understand they've gotten with you and Amanda, which is great. At least we know some capable folks can talk about our history and do the walk. So thank you. That's thrilling.
One thing there.
Yeah.
Sharon, the museum won't be open that Saturday, will it? On April.
We hadn't planned on it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Because I'm going to be taking people around through there. I'm going to talk about the Historical Society and some things in the museum and make the loop around by the library and come back around. So
I mean, if you all want to coordinate on an opening, I think it's fine. We just hadn't planned on doing anything. You know, the schedule otherwise is so full for Trails and Trilliums. We didn't think people were going to take advantage.
Okay. That's fine. That's cool.
Gosh, but there what, hundreds of people coming.
Yeah, but
yeah.
We did it. I did it 2 years ago, I think it was, and just because everybody's booked their workshops and their hikes, we didn't get any traction out of it.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
But your point though, if you or Amanda are going to be going by and you want to end there maybe and say, hey folks, stop and go to the museum.
Mm-hmm.
They won't stop by, Gene.
So he's taking them by the houses. Sharon thinks it's a good idea. I don't mean Sharon. Susan thinks it's a good idea to have it open if Sharon or somebody would work it that day as Sanford goes by.
Yeah, I'm going to do a walk on Friday afternoon and then Saturday morning, and then I think somebody else is going to do a loop around. There's going to be some other trips going around that loop too, but
I think Amanda has a couple as well.
Yeah, if it's open, I would definitely think it would be good to go in there because I think I'll have about 15 people with me somewhere around there, 15 or 20.
Mm-hmm. Well, Sanford, if you want to have a chat with Sharon and see if
I can talk to Sharon. If it's convenient, Sharon, for you to open it, it wouldn't have to be all day if you, okay, I'll talk to you, Sharon, but as we get closer to that, it's a couple of weeks away. Okay.
The second thing is the scholarship, which you all know we've got the updated documents. If you've not thought about it, pass them on to anybody you want to make sure has those. The high school has them. The award ceremony this year is a little earlier than previous years. It's in April. So be thinking if any of you or if we want to go back to Will, I'm sure he would probably enjoy doing the awards again, but it's up to the board to consider who they'd like to present. So if anyone has an interest in that or has a feeling about it, we can decide that a little bit later, but it will be in roughly a month. So it's not too far away.
Let me make a quick comment on that.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it was set up to help someone financially mainly. And we have been giving out the scholarships, and I'm aware, well, you all are aware of some of it too, where the money was misused. But also, people with the highest academic scores are getting a lot of scholarships. And I'm thinking we should consider need, and everybody might be thinking about that. Consider need instead of the highest academic, because even though the highest academic are deserving, I'm aware that our last one got a lot of money, a whole lot of scholarships, but she could not qualify to apply for the needy ones.
Okay.
Did that make sense the way I said it?
Yeah.
I think that's a great point,
She got
Jane.
way more than she needed for the year, which is fine. I mean, she deserved it. But I think we ought to go back to our original concept of helping someone in Beersheba who is in need but worthy of it.
You know, one thing that we might do is maybe change the application just a little bit to have more material about why they really want to go to college and how this scholarship might help them get there.
Yeah.
Because as you point out, Gene, the top performers are likely to have access to some other resources. And it's the person who's highly motivated, but maybe on the fringe and has the need, maybe that's who we ought to look at.
Well, Susan made the comment yes to that.
Yeah, she said yes.
Well, I don't, what I'd recommend is we need a subcommittee like last year. I think worked quite well. I think it was Jean and Susan and Will to make the decision, and maybe that group that's part of your criteria or whoever's criteria to make the decision. We can't really revisit our whole process right now at this point.
Right. Well, the application is already out,
Yeah,
but we might be thinking we could tweak that application
for next,
maybe.
yeah, for going forward. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I haven't heard from the high school. I don't know how soon we'll get their items, but I'm going to check with JAMA because it is in a month and need some time to figure out who's going to be who. If we got applicants, hopefully we did. So when we get the applicants, I'll come back to y'all and Jean, maybe if you could craft a sentence or two about what you just said, that'd be helpful. Just talk about, the way we want to think about the award.
And we also need to think about this too. We may not have any graduating seniors this year.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so we may just not even have someone that lives within the area and just wait again till next year.
Oh, very true. That's what I was saying. I haven't seen anything yet, and who knows? Maybe we won't have anything. So
yeah.
Okay. I will check in with the school if I don't hear anything in the coming week, because we're almost to the end of March here.
Right.
We're midway through March, that is. This last thing real quick, because I know we're over time. Larry had told me about the safe deposit box. I don't know if any of you all know, he does not know what's in it. It may not be anything, who knows, but I know the signatures are old. There are folks that aren't on the board except for Larry, and there's 3 signatures on it. So I want to get those updated so we have current board members on there. So I'm going to get with Larry about when he's in town, because citizens told me we had to come in person. They're very old still there.
And does anyone have a key to the lockbox?
Yes, I have the key.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not allowed to access it. So
right.
and
it'll be interesting to see what's in it. It might be like a time capsule of something.
There may be gold bars. Who knows? Yeah, that's right. So we'll find out. But yeah,
Susan may know what's in it, though.
I think it's Larry Harrison and I forget the third person, but somebody else that's no longer on our board. So we'll figure it out. I'll get the info and then see if we can get some current folks on that signature. And go discover what the treasure is inside the safe deposit box. Maybe it's a time capsule. Who knows?
Susan did not know we had a lockbox.
I didn't either.
This was one of the things, Larry at one time gave me a stack of stuff, just stuff.
Uh-huh.
That was one of the things in there, and he had no idea what was in it. And that's when we found out about the fire engine that we supposedly now is ours, and all that stuff. So, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
it may be the title to the fire engine.
no, I had that.
She said Harrison might know what's in it.
He may. Yeah, that's true. He was one of the signatories. So, yeah, chances are. All right, folks, I'm going to close our call. Thank you very much for your engagement and great ideas. We conquered the big stuff for tonight, and that's great. So I'll send some follow-up, and we'll continue on. I think it's going to be a great summer. So thank
Well,
you.
did you all notice Stephanie did not speak up at all? Did we give
Yes,
her
she
a
did.
chance?
Oh,
Did
she
she?
did. Yeah, she
Okay.
she did for sure. Yeah, thank you all. Okay, have a great
Thank you, Andrew.
evening. You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Murphy.